I'm going to walk you through my whole process of how I plan to reach B1 in Russian in 3 months this year. I started learning Russian during the coronavirus pandemic, actually, and took about a 2.5-year break from it. And even before I took a break, I couldn't get past around an A2 by myself. So I wanted to share all of the resources, my timeline, as well as the strategies that I'm going to implement. So do make sure to stay till the end of this video for my whole process. Now, my long-term goal with Russian is I actually want to reach eventually C1 in all 4 core skills. However, with just this year and knowing that I have a lot going on in personal life, also traveling a lot, what I am going to do is make sure to just reach a B1, and after I reach a B1, it's all about maintenance of that level, not even going up or try to go up to B2. And with B1, I do want to reach that in all 4 skills. So listening, reading, writing, and speaking. I overall am going to put a asterisk on all of this plan because I am heavily going to focus on grammar. Russian has, even more than German, been a very grammar-heavy language, especially with the use of the case system and understanding that even native speakers get the cases wrong sometimes. So I do want to build a very strong foundation in that sense so that it'll be a little bit more doable to get to B2 without having to go all the way back and review all of the gaps that I left because I didn't build a foundation in the grammar sooner. Also, this is technically my very first Slavic language, and I'm really excited about that. However, it also means that I want to dedicate the most time in the beginning stages, being really exact with how I study grammar, understanding all the nuances, because it's definitely not very intuitive, and there's a lot of exceptions. I think once I start with another Slavic language in the future, such as Polish, then I'll be able to skip around a little bit more with the basics. But with Russian, that is, as you will start to see in my plan, definitely not the case. Like, I'm going through absolutely combing through every single thing of the resources that I'm going to use. Now, I always will use a base resource, especially if I'm starting from 0. And you don't have to have one necessarily, but it does keep you on track and making sure that you're making progress in a logical sequence if you are a solo language learner. I'm actually going to use the Red Kalinka Russian video course. And ideally, I like when someone talks to me when I consume a textbook. And I really like that this specific course gives me video lessons, and it also gives me the illusion that you have your own private teacher. And it is also a very comprehensive curriculum, kind of like what I'd expect from an intensive language school program. And I know what I'm talking about because I went to 2 very, very intensive language school programs, one for Turkish and one for Arabic this year. And it really, with this course, covers all its basics for what you need to know in order to get to B1. And my expectations for the course, I know that I'll probably get pretty quickly through the A1 and A2 parts of the course, since I have definitely used all of A1 before and I've gone through maybe half of A2. So I'm not really worried about that as much. It's mainly review from there after taking almost a 3-year break from the language, reminding myself, getting my brain refreshed, etc. And I also expect for the B1 part of the course to take the most time as well, because I obviously, as I said before, hadn't ever reached that level by myself. I know that that is really where the grammar gets more complicated, and I'm going to have to watch out for even more errors with how I use the case system anyways. With that being said, I will also use the grammar drills section of Red Kalinka's website, which is where you have, I think, over 7,000 exercises to simply just drill the cases over and over and over, get used to their use, get used to actually seeing them in context. Now, how am I going to organize all of my resources into a digestible timeline for myself? Of course, I am going to have 3 months for accomplishing this goal. And I plan to use half of that time, so 1.5 months, to complete A1 and A2. I'm going to do an hour a day, which does not include any sort of input practice that I do outside of my actual active learning 6 days a week. And during these 1.5 months of A1 and A2, I'm literally only going to use the course and 1 podcast. That's it. I really don't want to overwhelm myself. I do have a tendency to sometimes want to overcomplicate things, but really, I think that the course itself is going to be fine. I think we can get very turned around with resources and feel like we have to have all of them, especially if we are learning a very popular languages where there are resources galore. But the fact is, all of them pretty much teach you the same thing, with variations in how they give the information to you, right? So I know for me, as I said before, I really like a teacher that talks to me, and the video course is a good sort of supplement for the way that I like to learn. I'm also going to use Russian with Max as the one podcast for extra input practice whenever I am just out and about and I feel like listening to some Russian, getting my ear used to the language again. The second part of those 3 months, for the next 1.5 months, is just going to be concentrating on B1 only. So you see, I'm doubling the time in order to really get everything that I need to get out of the B1 part. I'm also going to up my study time, so that'll be 2 hours a day, again 6 times per week with 1 day off, not including any sort of input that I do maybe for fun outside of my active study period. By the end of those 1.5 months, I will plan to finish all of the course. They also confirm you will be at a point where you can take an official B1 Russian language exam and actually get a certificate. So I'm definitely going to take B1 part of the course very seriously. And at this point, I'm also going to increase the different input resources because I want to get used to understanding and comprehending, to up my listening comprehension, several voices at once, as well as wanting to start reading more in the language. So I am going to use Ollie Richards' beginner and intermediate book series for Russian. I'll still listen to Russian with Max because he does have more advanced podcast listening sources. And I'm also going to return to my inner child and watch Ben and Holly's Magical Kingdom, as well as some more of Peppa Pig in Russian. Any sort of other YouTube channels that I find that maybe read, I think Boost Your Russian does this actually. They read side by side text, but you can also listen and you can see the words with a translation on the side and see all of those cases in more of a passive context, right? Speaking of passive, I also want to work actively on my speaking at this point, especially at a B1. So I am going to include conversation class 2 times per week, just for 30 minutes. I think that an hour is too long, and then I won't really look forward to the class. But if I really shorten it, then I know that that half hour is going to pass by really fast, and I know that I'm probably going to get a lot of new vocabulary from that only 30 minutes anyways. So it's enough for me, and it's enough to try to incorporate the structures that, you know, I'm writing down and filling in the blanks from doing Russian grammar drills or seeing in some of the Red Kalinka videos. I can activate that slowly but surely into my own speech when I talk Russian. And I will make sure to continue drilling with the Russian drills available on the same Red Kalinka site for about 30 minutes, maybe 3 to 4 times per week. Kind of gonna leave that flexible in terms of my energy for the day. Definitely not gonna make myself do it 6 days out of the week, but whenever I do have extra time and I've already finished a Russian lesson, I'll probably fill it with doing some grammar drills. So that is it for my plan. I'm interested in if you are learning Russian currently, what you're doing, how you found any sort of inspiration from this video, I hope, and write me down in the comments what other takeaways you've had. I'll see you in another video soon.